We all know that the Miami Heat are trying to pursue Giannis Antetokounmpo, and we've talked about their backup plan could be Ja Morant, but according to Brian Windhorst, there may be another backup plan in Trae Young for the Miami Heat that they could target if they strike out on trying to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. This rumor is kind of wild. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, with Walker Kessler being a little bit frustrated in Utah and how his restricted free agency is going, could he actually leave and force his way out of Utah? We're going to talk a little bit about that, plus the Spurs now committing to De'Aaron Fox and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it, man. First, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. As many of you guys know, we have a goal of getting to 10,000 subscribers on this channel by the start of the 2026-27 season. We have right under 5,000 subscribers that we need to get there, so it's a lofty goal, but I set the goals high. In exchange for that, we can deliver you guys some of the best NBA content you're going to see that keeps you up on the news, the rumors, everything going on with these teams. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So the Miami Heat, of course, have been there's a lot's been talked about with Miami Heat and the pursuit of Giannis Antetokounmpo and how that could get complicated. We'll get a little bit more into that in a second, but there are reports now that if the Miami Heat do not, or they strike out in their goal of getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, a player that they could pivot towards is Trae Young. This comes from Jake Fisher of the Stein Line, who says this. Young joins Los Angeles Clippers for Kawhi Leonard and Memphis Grizzlies' Ja Morant on Miami's list of fallback options. Sources with knowledge of the situation say Young remains most likely to reach a long-term extension with Washington, but outside interest is beginning to develop. Several teams have started weighing the possibility of pursuing the four-time All-Star via trade. Any deal will require Young, who's 27, to activate his $49 million player option for 26-27 rather than declining it ahead of the June 23 deadline. Young was originally projected to land an extension with the $40 million annually range with the Wizards. However, sources say internal interest from teams seeking a playmaking boost could intensify his market depending on how draft-related trade activity unfolds. So this is Jake Fisher's respected. Right now, again, like I say with all the rumors that come out from NBA experts and insiders, is take everything with a grain of salt, right? And that's no disrespect to them. It's just take everything with a grain of salt. Nobody bats 1,000 when it comes down to these NBA rumors, right? So if Miami does miss out on Giannis Antetokounmpo, Trae Young being somebody that could emerge as a fallback option, joining the likes of Kawhi Leonard and Ja Morant. Let's talk about both sides of this. For those that are new to the channel, one thing that I like to do here to layer the conversation is talk about both sides of every argument. It keeps me honest. I'm a solo content creator, so I don't have anybody else to bounce the ideas off or could push back. So I'll push back with it by counter argument. So let's talk about the first side of this. Does this make sense for Miami? Let's talk about the side that it does. Miami, we know, needs shot creation and they need offensive firepower. The Miami Heat's offense was terrible last season. At times, they had times where it looked like they were going to be able to figure out, times where they didn't. And that's just the reality of the Miami Heat. They tried some things offensively last year, but I think even the biggest Miami Heat fan to tell you is that their offense last year just wasn't up to standard. Now, for what it's worth, it didn't rank necessarily terribly in the league. They had the 12th ranked offensive rating in the league last year and the 12th rated defensive rating. So right around the middle of the pack, right? They're 18th in effective field goal shooting percentage, 17th in true shooting percentage. So they can need the use of half-court creation. I will also say this. Trae Young and Bam Adebayo could absolutely, with his playmaking and ability to catch the lob and Bam Adebayo from Trae Young, I think that it could do great. One thing you need around Bam is shooters, you need cutters, you need those type of things. Trae Young will provide probably one of the best shooters that, Trae Young could be very spotty three-point shooting-wise, right? But he would provide some of that shooting. I think also you still keep Norman Powell in that regard. And so I think right now, right, as well, one of the things that benefit the Miami Heat is to try to go all in about it is that the new lottery odds actually discourage tanking and favor teams that are going to be more in the middle. And even if the Miami Heat still wind up in the play-in yet again, that could increase their lottery odds and keep adding really good talent to this team. Trae Young would give them the much-needed power. I don't know if I still view Trae Young. I know he's a four-time All-Star, but let me say this. In fairness, the Atlanta Hawks were clearly moving in a different direction from Trae Young. And when he came back, he stuck out like a sore thumb in that offense. And he became the blame for that. But this is a guy that still can lead the league in assists, which he's done before. He averaged eight assists per game last season with 2.6 turnovers. But and he only played 15 games last year. You look at the last time he played in nearly a full season was 24-25, where he played 76 games, averaged 24 points per game with 11 assists per game, 4.7 turnovers in that, and 1.2 steals per game. So this is a player that does bring that scoring gravity that the Miami Heat have. And with Eric Spoelstra's, the way that he creates that offense and then he structures that team, maybe Trae Young could benefit from that. But let's talk about the reasons why Trae Young could be wrong for the Miami Heat. I don't think he solves the problem of size, defense, or the physicality issues that the Miami Heat had at times last year. And that's a big thing for him. Now, do you have enough players to cover up for Trae? Bam Adebayo as a defender could. Kel'el Ware continues to grow as a player if he ends up staying there. But then you got to look at having a backcourt of 6 foot Davion Mitchell and 6 foot 6'1", whatever he's listed at, Trae Young, which I think is still generous for him. That provides a bit of a concern there, right? I think also you have Kasparas Jokic there as well, who, while still a very young player, last year was his first year, but, he shot 42% from three last season, and the three-point shot was one of the things people were worried about him with. So maybe there's a little bit of that with it, right? But I think overall Miami is going to make that swing for a star. Is that the right one, right? And then you have to immediately talk about paying him right away, right? Trading major assets to then pay Trae Young long-term money. And if you miss on Giannis Antetokounmpo, it does feel like settling right now. And I also think this: Miami can't afford to make a star move just to say that they made a star move, and that's where some of the concern lies in this one, right? I think Trae Young to Miami is fascinating because the basketball fit offensively, he solves a need there, but the identity fit, that's where the debate really starts for that, and that's where you have to ask yourself: Miami's trying to build a contender, or are they just trying to build or just say a collection of players that they have? And that's where the question really comes down to for that one for them. But let's talk about the thing that's the catalyst of all this, and that is Giannis Antetokounmpo and the dreams of going into Miami. Now, we have two different reports from Brian Windhorst in regards to this one, in regards to Giannis and potentially going to that. And that is that, he says this: the league believes that it's finally going to happen, from Brian Windhorst. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that he can still commit to re-signing with the Bucks, but talks have intensified over the last 7 to 10 days. Look, he has focused on wanting to be a member of the Miami Heat. And because he only has 1 year on his contract, he has some control over that. In recent days, we've seen that the Boston Celtics have shown some interest there, but the Celtics offers has a stumbling block. Number one, you would be breaking up potentially Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And number two, it would mean changing the entire structure of how the Celtics play basketball. Stay tuned. There will be more on this as the week unfolds. So that's from Brian Windhorst, who also then says in regards to it as well that the Milwaukee Bucks are not in love with the trade package that the Miami have to offer. And that's another thing that you have to look in that one as well. So the thing of it is that the complications are rising for Giannis to potentially go to the Miami Heat if that's where he wants to go. I still say the Miami Heat have the best shot, mainly because if Giannis wants to go there and he controls it with his player option, with his desire to re-sign with the team or not, that's leverage that Giannis controls. He doesn't control technically where he's traded to, but he does control whether he's ready to commit to re-signing with that team, which then could turn off teams. I do think Miami has enough to make a real offer. Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, a number 13 pick. They have stuff that they can offer legitimately for Giannis that the Milwaukee Bucks could look. They can look to flip Tyler Herro. They think that they can unlock Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez, those young players that they got nothing but time to invest in their development there, right? If Giannis goes to the Milwaukee Bucks and makes it clear, I want to be in Miami, I'm only going to sign an extension in Miami, I do think that other teams are going to hesitate to make an offer because if Giannis is not going to sign that extension there. But I also think this: the Milwaukee Bucks have no reason to rush right now. The Bucks don't have to accept a trade package that they don't want or they think is going to help their team. Tyler Herro is a good player, but he may not be a piece that the Milwaukee Bucks may want to invest in. And I do think the Celtics really entering that conversation of Jaylen Brown is on the board there and in part of that talks. It's going to be hard for the Milwaukee Bucks to pass it up with where they are. I still think that a multi-team deal is probably what's going to happen here, and that's going to net them the best draft capital. But the question is that if you go to a 3-team deal, are you not getting the best draft capital by rerouting Jaylen Brown to a different team than trying to reroute Tyler Herro to a different team? I do feel like this. It feels like Miami is in the race, but the Milwaukee Bucks are telling the Heat your first offer isn't enough, and they're trying to leverage these other possibilities for the Miami Heat to make a better offer. Now, how they only can offer what they can offer. What else can they put on the table? I don't know, but we'll start seeing how that's going to work out for these teams. But let me know what you think on that down below. Walker Kessler is another topic here for the conversation here. It's been reported that Walker Kessler is frustrated with the Jazz over how they've handled his extension and restricted free agency process so far. Utah has the money committed to Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. You know, and they have other players in Filipowski in the wings there. I do think Walker Kessler has every right to be frustrated. He's been expected to be part. He's been a part of this rebuild for the Utah Jazz for so long, and some could say that his value has been hurt a bit because of the Utah Jazz tanking for basically his whole tenure there. Now, last year he had a legitimate injury that left him out for the remainder of the season. You can't take away from that. That was a legitimate injury. But I do think that with Utah declining to extend him, controlling his restricted free agent market, the lack of commitment that seems like it's there as well, Walker Kessler is absolutely in his right to be frustrated. When you look at rim-protecting centers with a defensive profile that Walker Kessler has, their value in the league is crazy, especially for a league that's now at the point where Wemby is ready to ascend and teams are preparing for that Wemby ascension, right? So now, teams that have a need for major size, like my Chicago Bulls, for example, could very much so be in on Walker Kessler. But then the other side of this is the business side. Utah Jazz are just managing the cap the right way. Restricted free agent is designed to give teams control and flexibility. And when you look at the injury situation with Kessler, it does complicate the market, whether it was the fabricated injuries to hold him out of games like the Utah Jazz did or whatever. Utah has major front court money committed. So therefore, they have to think about that, especially in the era of the second tax apron. And that's the thing. The Jazz may be handling this like a business decision, but players remember those decisions directly, and that can affect this relationship between Walker Kessler and the Utah Jazz for years and years to come. I guess we're going to see what the impact of that is overall, right? Which leads us then to our next topic, and that is the San Antonio Spurs have committed to De'Aaron Fox, which has been a big question, a hot button topic, basically since they have gotten eliminated, right? And I think that this is a smart move for the San Antonio Spurs for a couple of reasons. Fox was playing at a very high level throughout the season, right? And it seems like now that we've gotten a report that he played through a high ankle sprain as well throughout the finals that are there. With San Antonio having Wemby, Harper, Castle, and rookie contracts, right now their finances are manageable. So keeping a veteran talent like De'Aaron Fox, who has been good for you, more good than bad, I think makes sense. And you hope that he's going to, even if you want to trade him later, you know, if he comes back playing really good in the start of the regular season, flip him at the trade deadline. You're probably going to get more back for him than him looking bad in the NBA Finals at that point in time. He gives the Spurs a veteran leadership. He gives them a downhill score that they need as well. And I think those young teams need that stability. But I will say this. The Spurs may be ignoring a bit of a fit problem. And right now, I do think they have the runway to ignore that fit problem. But with Harper and Castle clearly, and the guys that are going to be the backcourt of the future there, you know, I think Wemby needs the maximum spacing. He needs the quick decision makers, all that type of there. Fox shooting limitations provide a problem for them as the playoffs goes on. And that's where the ultimate question that the Spurs are going to have to ask in the long run here and see. Waiting too long could make the contract and the trade market a bit harder to navigate for the San Antonio Spurs. And that's what we're going to have to see. The ultimate thing is the Spurs don't have to trade Fox today. But they absolutely have to be honest about his fit both now and in the future and question whether Fox is a good long-term fit there and would they be better to try to move off that asset now and try to get the most back. And I do think that's a question that's probably going to need to be answered at the trade deadline next year, depending on how he plays at the start of the season and the value they found around the league. And we'll see. Is he the long-term fit? I doubt it. That's probably going to be Harper and Castle. But how much longer do they need to hold on to Fox? That's the question. And we'll see what's going to happen in regards to that one. But that's going to do it for today, y'all. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. Let me know your thoughts on everything down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.